Hello and welcome back. Chapter 7. Everyone scattered out of my way as I stormed into the office and headed directly to Harold's door. It was shut, but I didn't bother to knock. He looked up as I walked in, the door slamming into the wall in my wake. He pushed a hand through his hair, which just made it stick out more. "This is the job?" I asked as I stopped on the other side of his desk. "I'm an assassin?" There was a chair, but I ignored it, opting to pace instead. "You said right the wrongs of the universe, not kill people." Harold held his hand up in front of him. "It won't always be killing." "How often? Every other time?" "I don't know." Harold got up from his seat and went to shut the door. I guess he didn't want everyone to hear me, but I personally didn't care. They could all hear as far as I was concerned. "Oh, good. You're here," I heard Harold say and looked to see Fate walking into the room. Harold closed the door behind him. I looked at the both of them now. "I'm not doing this job." "We can discuss this calmly." I sat in a chair in front of his desk and took a deep breath, forcing myself to relax. "You want calm? This is me calmly telling you I'm not doing that again." I sat with a disgruntled Harold at his desk in front of me and Fate leaning against the wall behind me. I turned around in my chair. "Is there something wrong with one of your legs?" Everywhere he went, he was leaning on things, like the vertical space he occupied wasn't enough. He had to hog up as much horizontal area as he could possibly get, too. It wasn't like you could miss him when you enter a room, but that just wasn't enough for Fate. "Does my leaning bother you?" he asked. I turned my back on him again. There was something very unsettling about being around him. I always wanted to kill him, and the fact that I found him attracted on top of that made me want to torture him first. "Do you know how your human form was killed?" Of course I knew. I was there. It was a stupid question intended to throw me off balance, and it did. I've been avoiding thinking of that day. If I did, I remember my parents were just miles away, and yet I couldn't speak to them. I'd miss Charlie and all the friends I lost. The only way I was mentally surviving this situation was to push what happened from my mind. I was living day by day until I left. "Do you?" Harold pressed. "Harold, you know I do. Make your point." It was one of the reasons I'd agreed to this in the first place, and I resented the reminder. How could I not? All of those people robbed of a chance to even say goodbye, have a few last words with their loved ones, Harold continued. "If you don't get to your point soon, I'm leaving, and not in a calmly fashion either." The last thing I wanted was to hear him talk about something I experienced firsthand. Even when I did let myself think about it, I didn't know what to do. I knew I had a limited amount of time, and yet I keep forcing it from my mind, not wanting to deal with what happened. "You know you have to actively participate for 30 days. Calling it active participation doesn't change the fact that you want me to be assassin for hire for 30 days. I stood, unable to stay calmly in my seat, and slammed my fist against his desk. "It's either active for 30 days or 1,000 years. Don't be stupid about this," Fate said from behind me. "Even if Harold wanted to, you've got to be active for him to have the ability." I slumped back into my chair and just shook my head. They had me. They knew it, and so did I. "To help the situation become more palatable to you, we might be able to help you get the person who orchestrated your train crash." Now you're going to help me. Didn't you tell me it was my problem?" We reconsidered. I stared at Harold and then looked back at Fate. There was something more going on, but I certainly had no clue what. "Do you agree?" I'm thinking. What were they getting out of this? And I didn't believe for a second that they weren't getting something. But did it matter? I didn't know how to find them. At least I can walk away from this situation with a certain amount of peace this way. As long as I was still walking away, that was. And this doesn't extend my current contract. No. Fine. Fate pushed off his favorite place on the wall and walked out the door saying he'd be waiting out there. Why is he waiting? He's going home with you. What? Don't get too comfortable. I threw my keys on the counter, and if he thought he was getting a key to this place, he was highly delusional. Neither of us has spoken since we left the office. Don't worry, I've already got it. I've already got a key, he said as he walked into the kitchen and opened my fridge. Thanks a whole bunch, Harold. Why are you doing this? And don't give me some bull about having to listen to Harold. He was hogging up all the space in my tiny kitchen. What if I wanted to get in there? I'd have to squeeze in past him. If they hadn't dangled such a tempting carrot, this would be intolerable. I have my reasons. He took a glass from my cabinet and poured the last bit of my iced tea into it. Which are none of your business. I still don't understand why you have to sleep here. I saw him roll his eyes and I gripped the counter to keep myself from trying to physically drag him out. He finished my iced tea. You don't take the last of someone's iced tea. Because I need to try and sink into your fate. We're more in tune to pick up things when we're sleeping. The closer proximity to you when I'm sleeping, the more I'll hopefully pick up. Shouldn't you just be able to do that? No, it doesn't work that way. Harold looked at me and paused. And to complicate matters, it's your past, so it's even harder. So now what? We're stuck together until you start picking up on the murderer's trail? Pretty much. If it's going to work, I'll get something in the next few days. He took a couple of sips, made a face, and tossed the remaining contents of tea in the sink. What brand was that? That was it. I was on fate overload. I walked in my room, grabbed a pillow and blanket, and threw them on the couch before I shut my bedroom door a little more firmly than necessary. And that's the end of chapter 7. See you in the next chapter.